review is on CS, like CS education.
Originally, it was going to be on like learning habits and study skills, but the
Hmm.
more I did my reading on that, the more mm, I feel like I should be more specific because there's actually a lot on study skills and learning habits out there, um, fusing cognitive science and neuroplasticity. But there's not a lot in that specificity in CS higher ed. So I'm thinking maybe I'll go more specific. Uh, so here is actually a handwritten letter by a professor named Edgar Dijkstra. He published this in 1988. He was a professor at Texas, University of Texas. And what's fascinating about this piece, I just wanted to show you that it is truly, signed by him, Department of Computer Science, University of Texas, Austin, in 1988. And I read through this, and I wanted to highlight some parts. So maybe I'll just read these two paragraphs really quickly. Okay.
Hmm.
So the usual way in which we plan today for tomorrow is in yesterday's vocabulary. We do so because we try to get away with the concepts we are familiar with and that have acquired their meanings in our past experience. Of course, the words and concepts don't quite fit because our future differs from our past, but then we stretch them a little bit. Linguists are quite familiar with the phenomenon that the meanings of words evolve over time, but also know that this is a slow and gradual process. It is the most common way of trying to cope with novelty. By means of metaphors and analogies, we try to link the new to the old, the novel to the familiar. Under sufficient, slow, and gradual change, it works reasonably well. In the case of a sharp discontinuity, however, the method breaks down. Though we may glorify it with the name common sense, our past experience is no longer relevant. The analogies become too shallow and the metaphors become more misleading than illuminating. This is the situation that is characteristic for the radical novelty. Um, he goes on a lot on this idea of radical novelty. First and foremost, when I read that, when he that segment, I was like, "Whoa, CS professors can be so cool," and I want to be more like him. And another one, I think I was texting Jeff about like pushing him to be brave in his when he's developing his MATLAB YouTube series. And recently, he's like, there was one clip where he introduced where he actually like raps a little bit, and I think all of that is super important, to really reach students. And then one last thing I'll share, and then we can have a discussion, is this thing over here. The paper is titled "On the Cruelty of Really Teaching Computing Science." I forgot. Okay, let me read. The problem with educational policy, and reminder, this is Department of Computer Science in 1988 at Texas, Austin, is that it is hardly influenced by scientific considerations derived from topics taught, and almost entirely determined by extra scientific circumstances, such as the combined expectations of the students, their parents, and their future employers, and the prevailing view of the role of the university. Is the stress on training its graduates for today's entry-level jobs, or to providing its alumni with intellectual baggage and attitudes that will last them another 50 years? Da, 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 da. And he poses a question. Do the universities provide for society the intellectual leadership it needs, or only the training it asks for? Um, I love to have a discussion, and then we can actually play this clip where uh, basically Jeff is like, it's wise to teach techniques to solve problems that have existed in the past, but Jeff made a bet in his career that that is not enough, because how can we prepare for a future that we don't know? Therefore, it might be wise to really equip students with confidence in learning and learning skills so that when new problems arise in the near future, they're not just going to apply the slope equals intercept line equation they learned in math, because that's not enough. That's not going to be enough.